There's a new procedure that was communicated to the teams in a memo dated October 27-ish of this year. And I started to look into it a little bit, and it was part of a memo that had various other changes to the interview process for coaches, some Rooney Rule changes, and other things of that nature. And I do a lot of local radio, and it's started to come up, especially in the markets where they're thinking that their coaches are going to get fired, like Chicago. So I went back and found the actual memo, and it makes it clear, because I wrote something about it today, and somebody contacted me and said they may not have voted on this yet. The way the memo reads, it's already in place, and it goes like this. If you fire your coach with 2 weeks left in the regular season, you can start interviewing assistants from other teams if those teams give them permission to be interviewed. It would happen by Zoom. It would be all virtual. But, Myles, this could, because we've seen no interim coaches yet, other than obviously what happened with the Raiders, which had nothing to do with wins and losses. But once these teams start falling off and we get closer and closer to the onset of Week 17, we may have a bunch of guys get fired before we get to the traditional firing cycle, because if one team gets a head start on interviewing these coaches who are with other teams, then other teams are going to want to follow suit.
Of course they will. Yeah. But I mean, we already know that the Raiders do have a head start. They've had months of a head start. And I know that there was that report out of CBS that said that they haven't really started doing anything yet. But I don't know. I'm just going to choose to believe that Mark Davis has at least done some sort of preliminary work on folks that he would like to talk to for not just head coach, but potentially other front office roles, because John Gruden was basically the football czar there in Las Vegas. So if there are teams that decide, yeah, we're going to want to move on from you, then maybe there is more of like a Black Monday on that, first Monday before that week, where teams can start talking to folks so that they can really start talking to assistants that are still with other teams. And now the other thing too, is if you've got a really big game that week, and I assume that Tuesday would be kind of that day because it's the players' day off where assistants get to talk to other teams. Is it going to be Tuesday or it's going to be like Friday in that late afternoon window? Because that's usually when guys are kind of done for the week and they go home, and that's the one day they spend with their family. So if there's going to be some sort of interview process there, if you're a team that's really in playoff contention, you've got like a huge game that weekend, because those last 2 weeks I think are going to be pretty big for playoff implications. Are you really going to let somebody like talk to another team? Like, really, are you going to do that? I don't know. I mean, if you're maybe one of those teams that's already out of it, then you're going to allow that to happen, perhaps. Or if you were one of those teams that really likes to be able to say, yes, we can have our folks move up and move on to different organizations, and we are kind of a breeding ground for that, then yeah, I guess that you might allow that too. But it's going to create one of these interesting situations, because also at this point, there aren't really that many teams that are out of it. I mean, you've got Chicago where the writing seems like it's on the wall, but other than that, I mean, there's just not that many teams, Mike.
Well, and it's funny because this is happening at a time when there's a push by some to delay everything until after the postseason has ended, because it creates a very real distraction for the candidates, a very real distraction. And as someone explained it to me last year, when you have an assistant coach who's getting these interviews and is under consideration for these jobs, and let's say, it's the game planning day for a playoff game, and that's the day that the person has the interview, what's the main focus going to be? And when that person goes home to spouse or significant other, what's the question going to be every day? Is it going to be, hey, how's your preparation coming for your playoff game? Or is it going to be, hey, have you heard anything about this job you may get that may change our life dramatically? So there is reason to not build in these distractions. We hear all the time coaches talk about players being distracted. It's a hell of a distraction for the assistant coach, who is looking at finally getting that thing that he has been trying to get his entire life at a time when he should be fully focused on finishing the job he currently has. Let's go ahead and take a break.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.